Hare Krishna, devotees. Welcome to our fifth evening of our Bhagavad Gita overview seminar for Bhakti Shastri. We're very happy to have you all here. So, as I'm sure you're aware, we are in the middle of the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We're just entering into the last main section, the second main section, titled Arjuna's Dilemma. And it goes from about verse 28 to verse 46, which is the end of the chapter. So let us begin, though, by reciting our prayers. Nama Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastya Chadesha Tarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchkalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha, paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Yes, so Arjuna's dilemma, starting with verse 28, it's the first verse in which he actually directly expresses his distress. And going through to the end of the chapter, which is verse 46. All right, so let us read the translation at least, of verse 28. Arjuna said, "My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up." Yes. So we did mention last night how Srila Prabhupada in the purport to this verse, Srila Prabhupada expresses something we might not really expect. He expresses, you could say, a type of appreciation. Anyway, he's evaluating Arjuna's consciousness here, that Arjuna is, as mentioned, in fact, in the previous verse, kripaya paraya, a high level of compassion. So Arjuna is really feeling compassionate. So let us just read this then from the purport. Srila Prabhupada says, "Any man who has genuine devotion to the Lord has all the good qualities which are found in godly persons or in the demigods, whereas the non-devotee, however advanced he may be in material qualifications by education and culture, lacks in godly qualities. As such, Arjuna, just after seeing his kinsmen, friends, and relatives on the battlefield, was at once overwhelmed by compassion for them who had so decided to fight amongst themselves. As far as his soldiers were concerned, he was sympathetic from the beginning, but he felt compassion even for the soldiers of the opposite party foreseeing their imminent death. And while he was so thinking, the limbs of his body began to quiver, and his mouth became dry. He was more or less astonished to see their fighting spirit. Practically the whole community, all blood relatives of Arjuna, had come to fight with him. This overwhelmed a kind devotee like Arjuna. Although it is not mentioned here, still one can easily imagine that not only were Arjuna's bodily limbs quivering and his mouth drying up, but he was also crying out of compassion. Such symptoms in Arjuna were not due to weakness, but to his soft-heartedness, a characteristic of a pure devotee of the Lord. So that's interesting, isn't it? Because we're very used to thinking of what Arjuna is saying here as being just like greatly not appreciated by Krishna. But it's not exactly just as simple as that, really. So anyway, this is something to meditate on. Just something to bear in mind, at least. Now, we are, like we said, we're going into this last section. Let me just give you a little outline of what's there. So, so it's from 27 to 46 or 28 to 46. Arjuna's actual doubts appear from 28. So there are different subsections where different particular types of concern and anxiety are expressed by Arjuna. Let me just tell you now, because we are going to move between those subsections, not entirely, not always chronologically. All right, so first of all, there is just, you could say, just plain compassion, as Prabhupada was discussing there, as we read in verse 28. So that's there, 28, just simply compassion. Then another section is arguably 29 through to 35. And the basic idea there is that we should not fight. I do not want to fight, because if we do, if I fight, then the end result will be that I will not enjoy. I will not be happy. I will be disturbed. Therefore, I don't want to fight. This is actually carried over into the second chapter, but when we get there, we'll talk about that in the second chapter. So then, another section is from verse 37 to verse 43. And there the problem is that family traditions and family religious traditions are going to be destroyed. And there'll be all sorts of detrimental results coming from that, like the degradation of womanhood, the birth of unwanted progeny. So that's from 37 to 43, more or less. Then a third type of concern, doubt, anxiety that we really shouldn't fight. It appears in verse 36 and then verses 44 and 45. And the concern there, the anxiety there is that we should maintain saintly standards, high standards of dharma, and be very careful. Otherwise, we're going to be subjected to sinful reactions, and that's going to be very bad. So, those are the main three sections. We'll go through them now. And like I said, in at least a couple of the sections, really, there's a bit of jumping around from one part of the chapter, then on a few verses to another part of the chapter. So, of course, Arjuna is deeply distressed and bewildered, actually. And when people are bewildered, then their minds cannot really focus very systematically. So perhaps that's the situation there, that Arjuna's mind is just jumping back and forth, thinking of one reason, then another, then back to the first one, then a third one, back to the second one, this sort of idea. But anyway, we'll go through it, and we will try to examine these different anxieties, complaints of Arjuna, why he doesn't want to fight. So we read, last night we read 27, of course, where it's just described that he starts feeling compassion and starts feeling distressed. We just now read verse 28 and the whole excerpt from the purport, where his feelings of compassion are summed up. Now let's go on to verse 29, it's the next verse, and then 30 to 35. Okay, let me just refer back, if I can, to the book. Oops. Okay. So here we are, 29. So in 29, he just expresses his confusion again. My whole body is trembling, my hair is standing on end, my bow Gandiva is slipping from my hand, my skin is burning. So he talks, Prabhupada mentions in the purport that Arjuna, that there are two kinds of trembling of the body and two kinds of standing of the hair on end. And they occur either in great spiritual ecstasy or out of great fear under material conditions. Just want my assistant to get something. Can you bring, please, the mouse, which doesn't have a cord on it? It's a Logitech. It's on the table. Thank you. Right, yeah, so there are these two kinds of trembling and two kinds of standing of the standings of the hair on end, either out of spiritual ecstasy or great fear. And of course, Prabhupada makes it clear here that Arjuna's symptoms are out of material fear, loss of life, and even his Gandiva bow is slipping from his hand, as we'll read as we go on either later this evening or maybe on Monday. We'll just see how it goes. If we finish this chapter tonight, that's fine. So we'll see that eventually Arjuna puts down his bow. That same Gandiva bow, which Arjuna said, if anybody tells me to put this down, my bow, Gandiva, I will kill them. Arjuna himself put it down. So he's not doing well. Of course, we understand also that this is happening by Krishna's arrangement. It's not happening like in a truly objective and real sense that Arjuna is just in and of himself feeling like this. This is all going on under Krishna's control as part of the Leela of arranging for this essential literature, Bhagavad Gita, to be spoken for the benefit, not really of Arjuna, but for the benefit of us. The benefit of us who are doing Bhakti Shastri 2020. So now from 30 to 35, there's this whole series, that's it, thank you. This whole series of verses, which, if where are you? Thing will work. Oh my gosh, having mouse problems. Oh, it's operating the other computer. Oh no. Okay, hope you're still going there, because this thing is sort of out of its head. It's completely. Just, oh, Krishna, give me a moment. Okay, I give up. All right, maybe by the grace of the Lord, this will work properly. Okay. All right, so we're going from verse 30 to 35. And the subject is, the point is that we will not enjoy. We will not enjoy if we take part in this battle. So let's go through. Here he is now in verse 30, just expressing in a general sense how bewildered he feels, and also that he sees that bad fortune, no enjoyment is going to come. I'm now unable to stand here any longer. I'm forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune. O Krishna, killer of the Keshi demon. So he's addressing Krishna as Keshava, which has different meanings, but one is the killer of the Keshi demon. So Arjuna feels, I'm under the influence of sort of something demoniac here, something bad, this whole idea of fighting and killing and destroying and all of this. So you are Keshava, you killed that nasty Keshi demon. Please help me in dealing with all these problems. So he feels he can't stay on the battlefield. And his mind has become so weak, he's forgetting himself. He doesn't really know what he's doing. It's all, as Prabhupada explains, it's all, he says, excessive attachment for material things puts a man in such a bewildering condition of existence. In other words, Arjuna is expressing attachment and saying that, effectively saying, even if I win, Arjuna envisioned only painful reverses in the battlefield. He would not be happy even by gaining victory over the foe. In other words, if I win, I will lose. And if I lose, I will lose because I'll be dead. So it's just only causes of misfortune, no happiness there. And Prabhupada expresses that when a man sees only frustration in his expectations, he thinks, why am I here? People are interested in themselves and their own welfare. No one's interested in Krishna's welfare. So that's how Arjuna is feeling. No enjoyment. The last sentence, Prabhupada says, Arjuna thought that his victory in the battle would only be a cause of lamentation for him. Yes. So let's go on to 31. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Yes, so no gain or enjoyment under any circumstances. Because he's thinking simply in terms of his own so-called interest. He doesn't understand he should be concerned for Krishna's interest. What will please Krishna? What does Krishna want? But rather it's, what do I want? What do I want? And as Prabhupada explains here, in the purport of 31, just a couple of sentences into the purport, Arjuna appears to have even forgotten the moral codes for a Kshatriya. It is said that two kinds of men, namely the Kshatriya who dies on the battlefront and the person in the renounced order of life who's absolutely devoted to spiritual culture, are eligible to enter into the sun globe, which is so powerful and dazzling. In other words, there's huge benefit, even if he loses. What to speak of if he wins? But he's not seeing it like that. He's got a sort of distorted view of what may be the outcome. He feels unwilling. Prabhupada says here, he thinks that by killing his kinsman, there would be no happiness in his life. And therefore he's not willing to fight, just as a person who does not feel hunger is not inclined to cook. or eat. If you've had some sort of super duper feast and, you've just reached the point of far too much, even if they bring your favorite preparation. What's your favorite preparation? He doesn't have any. Okay, anyway, even if they bring your favorite preparation, you won't take it. And even if somehow you force some down, you won't enjoy it. So, yeah, Arjuna is feeling like that. And he doesn't understand that as a Kshatriya, I have to rule something. So if I just go away to the mountains as a recluse, I won't be happy because I'm a Kshatriya, and without something to rule, I can't be happy. So Srila Prabhupada says in a class on this very verse in 1973, listen to this, it's nice. So there are two things, Shreyas and Prayas. Here Arjuna is speaking of Shreyas. Shreyas means ultimate good, and Prayas means immediately palatable. So here the problem is, what is Shreyas? What is ultimate good? This is Arjuna's dilemma. What is ultimate good? That is mistaken here. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita is required. Arjuna is thinking that Krishna is not so important. My family is important, my family. Although he's a devotee. Therefore, Kanishta Adhikari, in the lower stage of devotee, in the lower stage of devotion, one may be interested in Krishna consciousness, but his real interest is how to improve this material life. They're thinking that I can bring Krishna in the midst of my family, provided Krishna helps me to enjoy this material life. Can you just come and check the focus? Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Shri Giri Govardhan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. It's okay? Okay, that's good. Right, yes. So Arjuna has lost sight of what is the real ultimate goal or good, Shreyas. And he's thinking, protect my family. That's where the ultimate good is. Whereas the ultimate good is actually how to please Krishna, what will satisfy Krishna. So we go on, and next we come across 4 verses together, verses 32 to 35. And here Arjuna really vividly expresses this idea that we're not going to enjoy. We're not going to enjoy by fighting. So therefore, I don't want to fight. So we'll read the translation. O Govinda, of what avail to us are a kingdom, happiness, even life itself, when all those for whom we desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield? O Madhusudana, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and property and are standing before me. Why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? O maintainer of all living entities, I'm not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the 3 worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? Hare Krishna. Wow, that's pretty heavy, isn't it? So the point is, well, it's enjoyment, my enjoyment, from a couple of little bit different perspectives. First of all, he addresses Krishna as Govinda. You know, we've already mentioned on a few occasions how Arjuna addresses Krishna in different ways, under different circumstances. Rishikesh, please direct my senses because you're the master of the senses. Achyuta, you are infallible in that you always help your devotee, so help me. So now is Govinda. And what does Govinda mean? It means one who's the master of the senses, or one who gives pleasure, satisfier of the senses, one who gives pleasure to the senses. So, Krishna, come on. You got to satisfy my senses. And if you want me to fight, then you're not going to be satisfying my senses. You're going to be causing dissatisfaction of my senses, because all the people who I want to enjoy life with, they're all going to be killed in the battle. So even if I win, and all those people who I was going to enjoy with are all dead, I'm not going to enjoy. So Govinda, come on, please. You got to think, how am I going to satisfy my senses? That is, by not fighting, so those people don't die. Then my senses will be satisfied. Yes, and even what to speak of getting a kingdom like the kingdom of this planet, even if I got the whole universe, what pleasure am I going to get? So it's really, he's in deep distress about his own enjoyment and the possibility, you know, it really looks like a strong possibility he's going to lose his enjoyment, and sure, he's upset about that. Another interesting point is that he addresses the Lord as Govinda, as we mentioned, but he also addresses him right at the end of the last of these 4 verses as Janardana, which means Jana Ardhana. Jana Ardhana, like Go Vardhana, Jana Ardhana. Ardhana, Vardhana, meaning to maintain, to nourish. Go Vardhan, that hill which nourishes the cows. So Jana Ardhan basically means, Jana meaning the people, and Ardhan meaning the same as Vardhan, the maintainer of the people. So he's telling Krishna, come on, you are meant to be the maintainer of the people, but now you want the people killed. Janardana, you must really be Janardana. But Jana Ardana. Ardana also means destroyer. So it can be taken as destroyer of the people. Yes. Just as a matter of interest, when we get to chapter 2 on, whatever it's Monday or Tuesday, in chapter 2, verses 7 and 8, they're discussing basically the same point, that enjoyment, how am I going to enjoy if this battle happens? And we, what now? Where are we? Yeah. So one of our acharyas says that by addressing Krishna as Janardana or Jana Ardana, the destroyer of people, what Arjuna is saying effectively is, you want people killed, my people. You want my people killed. I don't want them killed. I want to enjoy life with them. So, if you want them killed, why don't you kill them? Why don't you kill them? You want them killed? Why me? Why should I have to kill them? All right, so now we move on to the next part of the complaints. And the next part, it begins with verse 36, but then it skips across to verses 43 and 45. So we're going top by topic, not just chronologically by verse. And the problem there, the confusion there, the distress there is, we should be saintly. We shouldn't conduct ourselves in such ways that we're going to get sinful reactions. And our lives will become very bad. We mustn't do that. That's a major negative. So first of all, then, verse 36, in which Arjuna directly expresses this. Verse 36, sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. Therefore, it's not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain? Well, again, an idea of enjoyment. What should we gain, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune? And how could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen? So it's a mixture. Watch out for sinful reactions, and we are not going to enjoy. We're not going to gain anything of value. And he addresses Krishna as Madhava. Oh, there's quite a number of names coming up. Madhava is a name of Krishna, meaning the husband of the goddess of fortune. So by addressing Krishna as Madhava, husband of the goddess of fortune, Arjuna is saying, what fortune are we going to get? What good fortune will there be? What gain? Yes, so now right at the beginning of the purport, Srila Prabhupada discusses very vividly what Arjuna is saying about killing these aggressors is really wrong. Arjuna is saying, sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. But Prabhupada, right from the beginning of the purport, Prabhupada points out that there are six, according to Vedic injunctions, 6 kinds of aggressors, and they are meant to be immediately killed. And there's no sin if you kill such aggressors. Rather, if you don't kill such aggressors, it's sin. So Prabhupada says, a poison giver, one who sets fire to the house, one who attacks with deadly weapons, one who plunders riches, one who occupies another's land, and one who kidnaps a wife. So those are these 6 kinds of aggressors, and the point is that they must be killed. And if they are killed, there's no sin on the part of whoever kills them, but rather, as we mentioned, if they're not killed, then those people who should have killed them will incur sinful reactions. And if you consider these 6 types, a poison giver, if you're familiar with Mahabharata and what happened with the Pandavas, then you would know that Duryodhana and company tried to kill Bhima by giving him a poison cake. So that's point 1. They did that. Then point 2, one who sets fire to the house. They gave the Pandavas a house of lac, which is a highly inflammable type of material. And when the Pandavas were, at least they thought they were sleeping at night, they set the house on fire. So one who sets fire to the house is one of the aggressors who should be killed or must be killed. So that's already there. Number 3, one who attacks with deadly weapons. Well, Duryodhana and company are right now attacking with deadly weapons on the battlefield. So they're aggressors again. Then the 4th one who plunders riches. So they cheated at dice. They cheated at dice, and in this way they plundered the riches. Shakuni was an expert cheat in dice throwing, and he defeated Yudhisthira by cheating means. And then number 5, one who occupies someone else's land. So right now, they have occupied the kingdom of the Pandavas. And 6, one who kidnaps a wife. So they tried to steal Draupadi. So actually, the Kauravas have qualified themselves as all 6 of the types of aggressors who should be killed. And there's no sinful reaction for whoever kills them. So we can just see the confusion of Arjuna. It's terrible. He's just he's lost it very severely. And to drive the point home, just after that list of the 6 aggressors, Srila Prabhupada talks about Lord Ram. Lord Ram was very saintly, very sattvic. He wouldn't tell a lie. He would only accept one wife, very honorable. When his father told him to go to the forest, he immediately went. He just didn't object at all. So he's really a saintly person. But when Ravana became an aggressor by kidnapping his wife, then Lord Ram, he didn't become like Arjuna, that, you know what he could have said about Ravana? He could have said, he's a Brahmin. He's a Brahmin. We cannot kill a Brahmin. A little later, if you're familiar with the Bhagavatam, is it the 8th or 9th chapter? The 8th chapter, if I remember correctly. Ashvatthama tries to kill Parikshit within the womb of Uttara, but they catch him. And there's a whole argument what to do with this person. He killed the sleeping sons of the Pandavas. Now he tried to kill the child Parikshit within the womb. What to do? And there's a whole debate. And one of the points which is brought up is that we shouldn't kill him because he's a Brahmin. Yeah, there's a number of main points brought up. And one of them is we can't kill him because he's a Brahmin, even though he killed our children and tried to kill our grandson. But Krishna didn't, anyway, you read that. Krishna didn't accept it. They didn't kill him, but they did something worse than kill him. They embarrassed him, really badly. Okay, anyway, the thing is, though, that Lord Ram did not try to argue that, we can't kill Ravana. He just went and just took it up, and in order to rescue his wife and right the wrong, he killed Ravana. So aggressors, they have to be treated like that, and one shouldn't be sentimental. Right. So, all right. Now, Prabhupada says in a class on this very verse in London in 1973, we are Vaishnavas. Our only desire is how to satisfy Vishnu. That is the tradition of everyone, but especially Vaishnavas. They must be very alert, very careful, how to keep Lord Vishnu or Krishna satisfied. That is our only business, so you should not neglect it. Then, Utsana Kula Dharmanam. It appears in verse 40. I'm sorry. I got to go on to verse 43. Let me just go on to verse 43. Let me read verse 43, and then we'll read this comment of Prabhupada's. All right, so 43. The Sanskrit begins, Utsana Kula Dharmanam. O Krishna, maintainer of the people, I have heard by disciplic succession that those whose family traditions are destroyed dwell always in hell. So the point here is, wait a minute, what are we doing? Little confusion. No, we're going to read that when we come to the family traditions. Let's read 44. 44 and 45, because they are about fear of sinful reactions. 44, 45. So 44. Alas, how strange it is that we're preparing to commit greatly sinful acts. Driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness, we're intent on killing our own kinsmen. And driven by selfish motives, one may be inclined to sinful acts. So Arjuna is saying, they're like that, but we're not like that. So we should not stoop to their level of selfishness and commit sinful activities because of selfishness. And 45, better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to kill me unarmed and unresisting on the battlefield. So Srila Prabhupada, let's have a look here. Prabhupada makes a comment. Prabhupada makes a comment. It's based on these two verses. Sometimes Arjuna is accused, and Bhagavad Gita is also accused of violence. There is violence. Bhagavad Gita is full of violence. Yes, it is full of the violence of a battlefield. But the Vaishnava is thinking, and Arjuna is thinking, that it was arranged for his Raja Sukha. This term appears in verse 44. Yad Raja Sukha Lobena, agreed for royal happiness. Yes, Lobena, it was arranged for the satisfaction of Arjuna so that he could enjoy the kingdom and the happiness thereof. But actually it was not so. So Arjuna was thinking like that. Raja Sukha Lobena. That the battle was there for his greed for royal happiness, but actually it was not so. It was arranged by Krishna for his satisfaction, not for Arjuna's satisfaction. So that is the difference between ordinary work and devotional service. Okay, and then back to, where do we go back to? 43. Let's read. Well, we read 36, which is about sinful reactions. 43 is about saintliness. Let me just check here. And fear of sinful reactions. O Krishna, maintainer of the people, I've heard by disciplic succession that those whose family traditions are destroyed dwell always in hell. So it's the beginning of a discussion, or it's part of a discussion, which actually begins in verse 43, about the destruction of the dynasty, destruction of the family. And you know what we'll do? You know what we'll do? We will read this, go through this part on Monday. Yes. Arjuna's arguments on the basis of not wanting the destruction of the family tradition, not wanting the destruction of the dynasty, the family unit, and the degradation of women. So we'll start on Monday by reading through this and then go through to the second chapter. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.